Hail and well met. I am Chibiabos, and I am making this video as a tutorial for Beastlord gameplay in Stardock's recently released game, Elemental Fallen Enchantress. Beastlord is one of several professions you may select when creating a custom sovereign in Fallen Enchantress. It enables a tactical combat spell called Tame, which, if successfully casted, immediately and permanently converts an animal to your side. With careful planning and a bit of luck, you can use this to great advantage to supplement or even replace having to train troops in your cities to serve as your military. There are three main advantages over using troops trained in cities. First, you do not have to occupy time in your city build queues to acquire a strong military force, and can, thus, focus your cities on development while your sovereign assimilates a military on his or her own. Second, unlike trained military units, beasts require no maintenance, which frees a strain on your economy trained troops otherwise would have. Third, beasts possess unique abilities, such as the Great Wolf's Howl, which grants a hefty attack bonus to all of your units on the battlefield, even ranged units. Furthermore, I also favor Beastlord gameplay for a personal reason. I just really like crawling over my enemies with armies of enormous spiders, shred them with packs of wolves, mauling them with relentless bears, etc. In this video, I will carefully explain my choices and decisions. I will be making this video Iron Man style. I undoubtedly will make some mistakes. Some of the risks I take will likely blow up in my face. But I will not erase those from this video, load a previous save, and continue like nothing happened because, while Iron Man is not my usual playstyle, I hope to show that while the consequences of screwing up can be high in this game, if you persevere, you can overcome costly mistakes or a bad starting location, come from behind, and still win. I think this is a valuable message to convey, because I know this game can be overly frustrating, and I hope, in demonstrating perseverance, not all is necessarily lost, even when it seems to be. This is the Create Sovereign screen. It randomly picks a name and faction to start, but I had not noticed that it had set me as an Empire faction until I noticed life magic proficiency had been replaced with death. I chose life and water apprentice proficiencies for my sovereign because, between the two magic skills, they possess heal, shrink, haste, and slow, which help deal with the risks inherent to my Beastlord playstyle. Whoops, I hit next too soon. I forgot to set my traits. I cancel out and choose attunement because Tame now consumes a lot of mana to start. I choose Brilliant for the spell mastery, as the high-cost Tame spell is all the more costly when the spell fails. And Tactician, as a strong initiative, is also very helpful to lowering the risks of taming powerful beasts. I did not realize that I had 2 extra points to spend, which in hindsight I realized was probably a bug. And I'm used to having to pick a weakness to afford 3 talents in addition to 2 magical proficiencies. Clumsy, which I picked here, causes my sovereign to occasionally strike the wrong target in melee combat, which can be bad, but you can prevent it if you are careful. Anyhow, when I realize that I still have 2 extra points to spend, I boost my proficiencies in life and water magic. Here, I choose world settings. To fit my gameplay, I set world size to large, so there will be more land, more stuff, and thus more animals to tame. I set champions to dense, as otherwise I can sometimes only find 2 or sometimes even only 1 low-level champion I can recruit. And perhaps most importantly, I set monster frequency to dense, because the more animals to tame, the better for Beastlord, but unfortunately it also increases the density of monsters that cannot be tamed. For enemy settings, I try to keep the number of enemies low so that the open spaces that spawn beasts will be wilder longer. And here we are. I'm going to pause a bit to explain and talk about what I see here. The green, brown, and sometimes blue tile marks with the numbers you see here are, respectively, the food, material, and essence resources your city will get if you found it in that specific tile. Unfortunately, you only get what is in that starting tile. You do not accumulate the food, material, nor essence of nearby tiles as your city grows. Only the food, material, and essence resources of your city's starting tile. You can only found a city where these resources are present, and their placement on the world map is pretty Spartan. Often there are vast distances between areas with any resources at all. Furthermore, once you settle a city, all of the resources of the nearby tiles up to about 6 or 7 tiles away are blocked from settling another city. So choose carefully where you set your city. Infinite city sprawl does not work in Fallen Enchantress. In my experience, material and essence resources are the most important, food a bit less so. These tiles, with only 2 material resources, are abysmal. The 2 essence resources are nice, but not quite enough to make up for the low material resources availability. I notice that this area of resources is spread decently wide with resources right at the edge of my site. Given that, and the material resources in my immediate vicinity are less than stellar, doing a little exploring before settling my first city seems like a good idea. There is a champion within reach I can recruit to help with this, just a bit to my southeast there, and so I head in their direction. Hello there, Inslow. You're cheap, I'm desperate. Have some Gildar and join me. That spot across the river with 3 food and 4 material looks much better. I will scout it to see if there's an adjacent forest which would enable a logging camp, which increases how much production I get out of each of those 4 materials. Also, being next to a river, I can build a dock, which, with upgrades, will boost a city's food and Gildar output. Logging camps and docks can only be built if your city starts immediately next to a river or forest. Sneaking a city's buildings to a forest or river will not work. There's a treasure nearby worth a detour to check out, and a black widow, which would best be avoided early on for a non-Beastlord, as they are very powerful. As a Beastlord player, however, black widows are worth the risk and are an early target because of their webcasting ability, which will immobilize a foe, such as a beast I want to tame, making an attempt to tame a beast much safer. This prismatic potion is a great treasure to find. It will render a champion completely invulnerable to all physical damage, especially useful when facing uber powerful monsters such as river slags or dragons, which, without powerful spells or potions such as this, can shred a large army of well-armed champions or soldiers very quickly. Aha! Yes! That 3-4 spot has both forest and river. Choosing research has been triggered, probably because Inslow generates research even with no city yet. I always choose restoration and mining as my first 2 technologies under civilization, as the first unlocks a workshop building for cities which boosts production per material, and the second gives a free production per material bonus to your cities without even having to build a building. At long last, we have settled our first city. Thanks to starting our city next to a forest, we can build a logging camp, which takes only 4 turns to build and will get us more production, which means everything we build after that will build faster. Second up, due to how aggressively the AI tends to expand, I add 2 pioneers to the queue, then a merchant for Gildar, then a scrying pool so we can have at least 1 essence, then up here to increase food production, and finally, a monument to expand our city's borders. Now, on with the scouting. Bottled Fire. Basically, a free tactical range spell in a one-off bottle. These tiles can still be settled because they are far enough from my first city. The 3/2/2 tile in the center is ideal because it is adjacent to the forest, but I will need to tame or deal with that Black Widow just north of it before settling, as it can easily trounce early city defenders. A stone mace is a powerful but slow and heavy weapon. Not an appropriate choice for my sovereign, as he needs high initiative, but Inslow for now will serve as more of a tank and will be tasked with doing the damage, so my sovereign can focus on spells and taming beasts. Inslow's dagger will actually suit my sovereign pretty well, as it provides a bonus to initiative, which is more important for my sovereign than doing damage. Continuing to scout around and loot what treasure I can, my sovereign has found this leather helm. It's cheap, it only provides 1 point of defense, but it is also light and is certainly better than going without any helmet at all. This lone darkling lurker is very weak. I could probably take him without too much trouble, but I'd rather wait and join Gevu, my sovereign, with Inslow, my recruited champion, so they can share loot, XP, and have each other's backs if things go amiss for fighting. Wolves start out very weak in hit points and attack strength, so are not immediately viable for taming, but if left alone, will grow stronger in time and may spawn a great wolf, a valuable beast to tame because his howl boosts the attack strengths of every unit the great wolf is with on the battlefield, even a ranged unit. A leather cuirass provides 2 defense, pretty low for breast armor, but they are light and certainly better than nothing. I have been trying to join Gevu and Inslow back together to form one army to perhaps go after one of those Black Widows in an attempt to tame them. But these lousy bandits decide to fling themselves at me. Actually, one bandit and his wolf, who with a mere 3 hit points, it's not worth taming, not at the cost of 40 mana. I cannot stop the wolf with high initiative and move points from hitting me first, but as you can see, he has little attack strength. I could move and then attack, but I remain where I am so the bandit cannot move and attack me on his next turn. The wolf takes only one hit to finish, and then I can face the bandit mano a mano. I am able to move and get the first attack in, but with a mere 46% chance to hit, I miss. The bandit retaliates with a throwing knife, which is silly considering we are adjacent. His melee attack is stronger, and my mace does not carry the threat of a counterattack against him. Oh well, in your face with my mace. Ooh, my spider senses are tingling. See that black widow to the southwest? Me want. Restoration has finished researching. On to mining. Ania is a champion an empire could recruit, but as a kingdom I cannot. I can kill her before the empire gets a chance, but for now I pass. I want that black widow. Getting the widow first will make battles go easier, and level the black widow with my sovereign and my champion on every battle I bring her on. These bandits, however, seem easy and are guarding loot I may want. That three group of bandits is the greatest threat on this battlefield, so after moving forward I cast slow on them, which will make them unable to move or attack as frequently. Since they can do 3 times the damage that the lone melee bandit can, I continue going after the three group of bandits to take them out first, or at least weaken them. I plan to strike them with my sovereign as make my way toward that archer, at which point Enslow can finish off what remains the bandit melee fighters. My mace in your face again. Bandits schmandits. More like target practice dummies. Now that Gevu has gotten past what remains of that three group of melee bandits, time to slice and dice that archer, and let Enslow clean up the melee bandits. That victory has brought a level up to Enslow. Strength will undo his initiative penalty due to his current encumbrance. The first pioneers have finished training, but I am a bit out of position here to go clear out that black widow from near the settlement site. We need to finish up down here and get hauling. Pioneers have 0 attack strength, so it is risky, but if you are careful, you can scout with them. Regular monsters, that are not part of an enemy empire or kingdom, only move at 1 tile per turn, while you can move at 2 tiles per turn in open terrain such as plains or desert. So long as you do not end your turn with your unit immediately adjacent to an uncivilized monster, your unit should be safe from attack. That is, keep at least 1 tile separating you from a monster. Time to collect that bandit loot. The Tear of Syndrome is an equipable item that grants +1 initiative. I decide to trade it to Enslow. Hopefully he won't be so far behind in tactical battles. And while I'm at it, now is a good time to trade his dagger back to Gevu for an initiative bonus on my sovereign. I also trade the invincibility potion to Gevu in case an attempted tame fails and he's endangered. And the wolf pelt, which only has a value for selling, as I find it easier to keep things organized by keeping all unequipped items with one person for potential sell-off later. Just checking things out with my pioneer. I was pondering settling diagonal from the forest, but decided to not risk it for now due to that black widow. I decided to attempt to tame this black widow in the southwestern woods, as it is a long way back anyway, through the woods and across the plains to those northern woods I need to clear out anyway. I am hopeful, but I know there's a risk in any attempt to tame that it may get resisted. And once attempted on a creature, tame cannot be recast on them, even if I could survive 10 rounds of cooldown. Fortunately, this Black Widow seems determined to try to cast spells rather than move and attack. They are unpredictable. Sometimes they will outright attack. And beware, they can bite pretty hard. Her web has worn off, which is good. I could not close the distance to attempt to tame while stuck webbed. Time to try taming her. 30% is a higher risk than it seems for those bad at statistics, with as deadly as Black Widows can be should it fail. Fortunately, I survived this failed attempt, but look how much damage she did in one bite. I regret I must now put her down. The 5 mana I spent on slow early in this battle is really helping out here, letting me get in more turns to attack and cast heal. It is cheap insurance against a failed tame turning into a disastrous defeat. I am spending quite a lot of mana on heal, which is making this battle quite expensive mana-wise, when you figure in the mana I spent on the failed tame. Without having slowed the Black Widow, I would likely have been fully defeated by now. I am simply not doing enough damage or landing enough blows, so I decide to use my bottled fire on her. She resists, but still takes damage. She still has half her health, while I keep having to heal a lot. This is slow grinding, so I'm going to go ahead and accelerate the remainder of this fight. I survived and won the fight, but because the tame failed, I do not consider this a victory. The Black Widow did 68 points of damage to me, while between Gevu and Inslow I managed only 30 points of damage to her. Tactician 2 is my choice. Having a high initiative, especially for my entire army, really helps. Midnight Stones boost spell resistance, which will help me resist webs and other spells or spell-like skills. My second Pioneers unit finishes training. I should have had my second settlement finished by now, but I am not progressing as fast as I should. I decided to check New Peridan's build queue out and make a few adjustments, specifically putting the workshop in since the restoration research finished a while ago. And of course, I want to build that workshop before I build too much more because the workshop will help everything else build faster that follows it. With that taken care of, I've joined these first pioneers that I trained into my sovereign's army along with Inslow, and we're heading northwest to clear out that area up in those northern woods and around those northern woods where I want to settle my second city. I want to clear out that wilding archer, and while he's not particularly strong, I decide to split my pioneers off while my sovereign and champion head off to attack that archer directly. And that price is dirtying our blades with your blood. This slow I am casting is probably not necessary. Just look at how many attack rounds I get in between his attack rounds. Looking at those turn icons in that column on the far left of the screen. That's thanks to my high initiative, and archers don't tend to get very high initiative. But it's good practice to remember to cast slow anyway, and it's not too expensive. As I mentioned, he wasn't much of a threat, but it is done, and this helps clear the area between my first city and where I wish to settle my next city. And here we have, from that archer's camp, another stone mace. I will keep Gevu's dagger for now, for the initiative bonus, but hopefully sooner or later I will run into another champion that I can recruit who can make use of it. Or if not, I can always sell it. Settlement level ups occur when your population passes certain thresholds. It is the only real use for food, as there isn't really anything produced that is directly affected by population. But level ups unlock certain buildings. I want my research going a bit faster, so I opt for Conclave. I might choose Fortress for military production bonuses and free enchantments to train units in the city if I were not Beastlord and still confident, despite the slow start, that I can still assimilate the armor I need from the beasts out in the wild. Eventually, I probably will establish a city and go the fortress route still in this game, but for now, I think I can do better with faster research. It just occurred to me that with the abnormal boost I got to my life and water magical proficiencies, again, I think now it was probably a bug I exploited and I didn't mean to. Anyway, I should have access to the Mantle of Oceans spell, which is a unit enchantment that greatly reduces the mana cost of tactical spells, including Tame, which will really help because Tame, when you start, is really expensive. Anyhow, with my sovereign and champion to help protect it, I think we'll go ahead and settle that second city now. Anyhow, with my sovereign and champion to help protect it, I think we'll go ahead and settle that second city now. Mining has finished researching, so now my cities get an instant and free production boost per material. That's the second of those two technologies I had initially queued, so now it's time to choose another technology to research. I'm a bit tempted by knowledge to help my research go faster, but both of my cities have production queues to chew through first. I have to build a building to take advantage of that knowledge. And right now, I want to have a road between my cities, so for now I go with civics, which leads to trading, which creates roads between my cities, and it also unlocks a number of buildings between them, and it enables rushing in my cities, where I can simply spend Gildard to finish a building instantly, which, of course, is really helpful. Since my new city's borders have swallowed her lair, that Black Widow has left her lair and is meandering around aimlessly now. So I decide to go ahead and loot the lair she's left behind. In it, I find Paradin wine, which increases dodge by 1. That certainly helps, so bottoms up, Gevu. I do not like these syndicates meandering around my city, so I'm going to go take care of them before they get too difficult. If you had not noticed by now, the monsters and ruffians level up over time and get stronger. There are no beasts I can tame in this fight, but I do take the opportunity to mouse over my tame spell and check out the mana cost now that I have Mantle of Oceans and that other tactical spell mana cost reduction. With no discounts, it costs 40 mana, but now it just costs 24. Slow is also down from 5 to 3 mana. That's so low I don't even need to worry too much about sparing its use. Remember that I took Clumsy as a weakness, so to keep Inslow safe when he gets into attack, I moved my Clumsy Sovereign over to the opposite side of him, so that the only unit adjacent to my Sovereign is this Syndicate party, who is the intended target of my attacks anyway. Making sure at least one empty tile separates you from friendly party members eliminates the risk of Clumsy, or the Beguile spell, which has the same effect when cast on a unit. While it is plainly obvious I am winning this fight anyway, before I deal the final blow, I decide to recover my Sovereign's injuries, since I cannot cast Heal out in Strategic View, and there's always a chance of being attacked by something with a high initiative who can get in and hit my injured Sovereign at the start of the fight before I get a chance to heal my Sovereign up in the next fight.
Don't be afraid, pretty Black Widow. I don't want to harm you. Quite the opposite. I want to take care of you and feed you the many corpses of the vile enemies who insult me.
Relax, Blackie. Take it easy. Yeah, nice and slow. There's that Beguile spell I mentioned, which induces the same effect as Clumsy. If the tame fails, Inslow might hit my Sovereign if he is adjacent when trying to hit the Black Widow. And here we go, our second attempt to tame our first beast. Woohoo! Success! Say hello to my not-so-little friend. I do not know why it classifies the empty party on the other side, since I tamed its only member, as being part of the last party that I actually killed in combat. Those syndicate thugs in this case. Probably a bug. Despite the discounts and boost to mana production, it will still take a while before I have enough mana saved up to tame again. With a Black Widow in my army, though, I am much more confident about fighting for loot and experience points. I don't want to get in over our heads, though. It was a long fight to tame that first Black Widow. It's time to crawl over some bandits with a giant frickin' spider. Wouldn't you like to go chase down some bad guys with a giant frickin' spider? Webbing really helps to divide and conquer in tactical battles, reducing how many you face at once. Starting to see the advantage in Beastlord? This brings new meaning to taking a bite out of crime. Ouch! That had to hurt, but not for long. Are there any lingering doubts about the potential of playing Beastlord? The Black Widow did 22 damage in that fight by herself, almost as much as all three enemy ruffians combined. Oh, yes. I've been hoping to find an Adept's robe. These sweet threads will increase my spell mastery so that resistance against tame and other spells will fall, and even further decrease the mana cost of my tactical spells such as tame. My Black Widow is insatiable. This darkening lurker could serve as a snack. Despite his weaknesses, a 50% resistance to a spell or skill like Web is pretty tough. No matter, he can still move, but he can't run far. And now he can run no further. A 75% chance to hit with 7 to 14 damage against all of 6 hit points. Don't struggle, it'll only drag out the inevitable. Rusty vambraces are heavy, but much sturdier than leather. With Inslow's strength promotion, heavy armor like this is not a problem. Now I'm regretting not having taken the time to kill Annie earlier. She's now recruited by an empire, so I cannot just kill her now unless I declare war on that empire first. I wonder how they recruited her with just a trained unit. I thought that required a champion. Hate stones are awesome. The sovereign or champion that consumes one will get a permanent bonus to initiative. And as I have often mentioned, initiative is very important. Being able to take more than one round in between an enemy's rounds means you can attack more than once between the enemy's attacks, or attack and heal, or just heal in between the enemy's attacks. And that is very powerful, obviously. I think we're at a good stopping point here for this video. Craxus is clearing out the loot and monsters to the southwest, which is unfortunate as I will have to focus on north and will really need to double down on taming an army of beasts. My Black Widow can more than take care of Annie, especially with my Sovereign and Champion, but Craxus' score is higher than mine, so he undoubtedly has several champions and trained military past that fog of war.